In my last video, I discussed some of the reasons why the Fed might pause rate hikes in September. In this video, I want to discuss the opposite. What could possibly go wrong? What are the risks that the Fed will continue to hike rates in September and beyond? If you're new here, welcome. I'm a former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney. As I discussed in my last video, the Fed's preferred measure of inflation, which excludes food and energy prices because they're so volatile. Well, if you have a variable rate loan, such as an adjustable rate mortgage, you can expect your monthly payments to go up in September. Please feel free to reach out to me through the provided channels. Thank you for watching. If you don't have a loan with an adjustable rate, you're probably insulated from the Fed's rate hikes. But that doesn't mean that you won't experience any spillover effects. The higher interest rates go, the more expensive it is to borrow money. And that means that businesses will have less access to capital, which means that they may scale back on hiring or even begin to lay people off. And that could eventually lead to higher unemployment, which could eventually lead to a recession. Came in higher than expected in July, and it's possible that we'll see a more severe economic downturn than the Fed predicts. 1.3% for the month and 3.6% year over year. This is well above the Fed's stated goal of 2%. And it suggests that price increases are still widespread throughout the economy, not just in a few isolated sectors. I represent clients all over the nation in complex white-collar criminal cases and civil fraud litigation. Employment numbers have been surprisingly strong. The unemployment rate is low. Will it be another 75 basis point increase like we saw in June? Or will it be a more modest 50 basis point increase? Well, the odds are that we'll see another 75 basis point increase in September. The odds are only a 25% chance that we'll see a 50 basis point increase. The reason is that the Fed wants to get inflation under control as quickly as possible, and it knows that the labor market is still very tight. So it probably wants to send a message with its September rate hike that it's still very committed to its inflation fighting campaign. Wages are rising, and that suggests to the Fed that there's still upward pressure on prices. Because businesses need to pay more to workers and they repassing those costs along to consumers. My channel is devoted to helping you understand the complex issues in the news right now that affect your life, your wallet, and your wheel. Well, it's starting to see some of that. In July, inflation came in lower than it did in June, both on a month-over-month and a year-over-year basis. But it's still too high, and that suggests that the Fed will continue to hike rates in September. The primary risk that keeps the Fed from pausing rate hikes in September is the persistence of inflation. The other risk is the strength of the labor market. Now, the Fed has indicated that it wants to see a substantial and sustained decline in inflation before it pauses its rate hike campaign. The question is, how much of a rate hike will we see in September? So, what does that mean for you? Of course, the Fed is trying to engineer a soft landing, but there's no guarantee that that will happen. If you have any questions about what's going on right now in the economy, or how it affects you,